Hello and good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? Great, that sounds kind of mild. Can everybody hear me okay? Great, thank you. First of all, thank all you beautiful people for being here this evening. This is really, really amazing. So we're here tonight to celebrate some of the incredible work that's been ongoing in the city of Stockton. We called this Planting the Seeds because we're really hoping that we're planting the seeds of change. And we're here to celebrate some of the work that's been happening specifically around environmental challenges, environmental justice issues here in the city. I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge some of our wonderful elected representatives who are here with us this evening. First and foremost, the mayor. Thank you very much, Mayor Tubbs, for being with us tonight, and his staff. Supervisor Kathy Miller, Tony Wang for Assembly Member Susan Eggman, Gary Prost for Congressman Jerry McNerney, Councilmember Susan Lentz and Councilmember Christina Fugazi, Vice Mayor Dan Wright and Councilmember Sol Jobrock. Thank you for being here. And I really want to thank all of the community organizations who have tables, all of you who have contributed to the work that's taken place over the past few months and who are continuing to contribute to the work to make Stockton a vibrant and wonderful community, and the city a place that we can showcase the lovely history that Stockton has and really take on not just the challenges, but take on building solutions into the future. So a little bit about the work that's taken place over the past few months. We've done some focused inspections to address environmental challenges and compliance issues, enforcement and compliance issues in the city of Stockton. This work has been done through Cal EPA's Environmental Justice Enforcement Task Force. That task force is comprised of staff from across all of the agency of Cal EPA, across all of its boards and departments. These are folks who regulate the air we breathe, the water we drink, our soil, and look at the health of our foods. And they've come together to really take a look holistically at some of the challenges facing Stockton residents and some of the solutions that we can put forward. I think one of the most beautiful things that's come out of this initiative has really been the partnership that you see demonstrated here this evening. This has really been the start of an ongoing conversation that we want to be having at Cal EPA to support Stockton residents and Stockton, our local regulatory partners here in the city and in the area around Stockton to continue to build a better and brighter future. Tonight you're going to hear from your mayor, Mayor Tubbs, and you're going to hear from the Secretary of the California Environmental Protection Agency, representatives from across some of our boards and departments, and folks who have been participating in what we're calling the Stockton Initiative that we've been doing over the past few months. So without further ado, I want to kick it over to Mayor Tubbs to share some welcoming remarks. Thank you all for being here.
I was going to do some spoken word, but I know you guys are next, so I'll leave that to you all. Well, first, I just want to be brief and say I think what's important about today isn't we're happy to have the secretary here, happy to have all these distinguished people up here with me, but it's really about you all, the crowd. Just 2 hours ago, Congressman Beto O'Rourke was here in Stockton and was curious about the work he was hearing being done around environmental justice in Stockton and how we're approaching environmental justice from the perspective that these things just don't happen. But like planting seeds, there's some intention, right? Like redlining didn't just happen. It's no great surprise, it's no coincidence, it's no act of God that the neighborhoods that are high in poverty are also high in environmental justice impacts. It's no coincidence, it's no surprise, it's not a shock that areas that have high rates of crime and schools aren't as great also have some of the highest rates of asthma in the state. And that's not to point fingers, it's not to wallow in self-defeat and pity, but to do what we've been doing. And joining hands and saying, if we can create this, or if someone can create this, we have the talents, the tools, and the agency to recreate it and create just and healthy communities for everyone. And so I want to say thank you so much to the community, because the work is hard. It's going to be difficult to make sure we have clean air and clean water and access to healthy foods won't be easy, But I think us being here tonight and then showing up the day after and the day after will get us closer to that goal. And the goal is simple. It's that no matter where you live in the city of Stockton, you should be able to be in a healthy environment. Healthy in terms of the quality of your air, but also healthy in terms of the safety of your community, healthy in terms of the options for jobs and transportation. And it's easier said than done, but it's important. So we're going to do it, or begin to work to continue trying to do it and getting better and better each and every day. And then the last thing I will say, particularly for the young folks coming up, me talking about young folks, isn't that crazy? For the younger folks coming up after me, is that the conversation we're having is not really about the past and all the stuff that was done. We know it was done, we know it was bad, but it's really about the future. It's about what can we do so that when you have kids, you're not having the same conversations that we're having today. So as we discuss nationally a Green New Deal, or locally as we work on our Transforming Climate Community through the Rise Stockton Initiative, know that this work can't happen without you all. That the EPA is important, that the mayor is important, that the school board member is important, but the most important title in this whole thing is concerned citizen, which is what we all are, regardless if we're elected or not. So I look forward to continue working with you. I want to thank all the community partners who show up for every single event, whether it's around economic development or opportunity zones or violent crime or the environment. You guys show up because you understand that it's not just one thing we have to work on. We have to work on all these things at the same time. And in closing, I want to say thank you to Vice Mayor Dan Wright, who I saw was here, and Councilmember Sol Jobrak, who's here as well, because it's really, really exciting that Stockton, California, the small city in the Central Valley, is beginning to lead a conversation about what environmental justice looks like. Because it's not just about the plants and the trees and the water, it's about the people. It's not just about hugging trees, it's not just about, it's about the way it impacts our daily lives. And if we continue to keep people first, we'll continue to make the strides to create the healthy, and the key word is justice, just community that we all deserve. So thank you, looking forward to continuing the work, and proud of you all for the work we're doing. And now we have the younger people who are going to do some spoken word.
I can't breathe.
And why is that?
Check the Enviro screen.
But then again,
I was born in 95206.
95203.
And 95202.
So my life expectancy means nothing to you.
We can't breathe.
And why is that?
There are no trees.
All we want is oxygen.
And the ability to breathe again.
I said, I can't breathe.
When our streets are barren,
And the air is polluted.
Our community
Shows up,
Steps up
does
and
not
not
give
give
up.
up. Because if I were a seed, I'd want to stand tall and be someone's ideal motivation, like a big sister.
and if I was a seed, I would be confident. I would be powerful. I would be healed. I would be connected to my community. I would be connected to my family. I would be the community champion that I should be.
If I were a seed, I would be the rose that grew from concrete, because despite where I come from, I will still rise up.
And if I were a seed, I would grow and grow and grow, and no obstacles and no storms would be able to take me down.
And if I were a seed, I'd be endemic to the soil in Stockton. Because when environmental comes in pollution, they be rocking, non-stopping, community impact and capacity building. If I were a seed, we'd all be breathing.
So, if we were a seed, we'd rise up.
What's up?
Let's give them another round of applause. There we go. Thank you to the mayor. Thank you for coming. As the mayor said, 95% of life is just showing up, right? So if we can't show up in our communities are not going to get the attention that they need. And the mayor and I actually met for the first time at the governor's State of the State. And I think if there's one thing that Governor Gavin Newsom stands for, it's that we're one state, we're one California, we're not all these different Californias, and the same air quality that you get in Santa Barbara should be in Stockton. The same soil and food that you get in Marin should be in Bakersfield. And yet we don't have that, right? And the reason that we have environmental injustice is because people didn't stand up, right? People didn't stand up before. They just said, you know what, okay, we're gonna build this wastewater treatment plant here or this power plant, and we didn't have communities that said, you know what, this isn't going to be in my community. Why don't we all share this burden? Why is it always that the poorest folk among us are the ones that have all the pollution? So our job is to level that playing field. So we got to level that playing field. And the way we do that, one of the ways, my name is Jared Blumenfeld. I'm the Secretary of California what the hell am I secretary of? Of the California Environmental Protection Agency. I started in local government. I spent 8 years running San Francisco's Environment Department, and then I was lucky enough to work for President Obama and cover the Western region for US Environmental Protection Agency. And the thing that we bring to the table, all of us here, to help you in this partnership, is that the laws have to be respected, right? People fought hard to get laws to clean the water and the air and the land, and as they said, you know, we can't grow, we can't breathe if we don't have good air, and too many of our kids have asthma, right? I went to my kids' public school, you ask how many kids in the classroom have asthma? Half the kids put their hand up. It's crazy, right? They spend more time with an inhaler than they do outside enjoying nature. So our job and this partnership that we brought was really to say, what are your priorities? How do we make sure we listen? Like, we're pretty good at talking, but government often doesn't do a great job of listening. So the first thing we wanted to do is understand what your priorities were, and then take it back and look at, are those factories that you think are polluting, are they in compliance with their permits? Like basic questions. You know, are the facilities that are cutting up cars actually polluting the environment more than cleaning it up? How do we know that that facility that, you know, produces food isn't also polluting the river? So you had lots of questions for us, and we wanted to make sure we went back and answered them. And some of them, you're going to get the facts and figures about what we did explicitly, but also I run a podcast called Podship Earth, so I like interviewing people. So we're going to interview all these people in a lightning round and find out what the hell it is they're doing for you, right? So we're going to start with Ken DeRosa. So Ken works for Cal Recycle. So Cal Recycling, they take our bottles and cans and turn them into new bottles and cans, but they do more than that. One of the things we heard from you is that there's a lot of illegal dumping. Put up your hand if you still think illegal dumping's an issue. Okay. See all those people, Ken? Right, you're going to fix their problems right now, right? So Ken, with all these issues of illegal dumping, like what is it that Cal Recycle can do? How can they, like, we want them to maintain their vigilance when they see something. We want to be able to take an action. Like, what is it that they're able to do?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Yes, I'm Ken DeRosa. I'm the Chief Deputy Director with Cal Recycle. And yeah, that's quite a telling show of hands, you know, the issue of illegal dumping. Because illegal dumping is one of those things that you can see. There it is in front of you. It's sometimes hard to know if your water is clean or dirty, right? It's sometimes hard to know, is this good air or bad? But that illegal dumping, that mattress, those piles of tires, they're right there in front of you. impacting your community, impacting your daily life. And so this is sort of a good positive thing in terms of what this task force is all about, really getting to know the community and understanding what your issues are hands-on. So in response to this, as we deal with the illegal dumping, there will be a task force that's being formed. There's going to be a workshop on May 2nd, and it's going to focus on these methods to proactively reduce illegal dumping. It's going to be bringing key members of local government together to talk through this issue and work with other experts in terms of how they can sort this out. It will be a matter of increasing public outreach, getting communities engaged, keeping you vigilant. You said, what am I going to do about illegal dumping? It's, with all due respect, what are we going to do about it? It's a community effort that we're all going to, and me, yes, absolutely. I take a lot of stock in this. But part of it is public outreach, making sure that you all are aware fundamentally of what those programs are that are available. Because sometimes illegal dumping is the absence of a known choice. What do I do with this mattress? What do I do with this oil? What do I do with my used tire? And you may not know that there are options. And one of our objectives, particularly within the context of our environmental justice program, is making communities aware of what those options are and what those choices are. We have this information. We have a CalRecycle table here. Our Connecting Communities to CalRecycle publication is there. It tells you about all of our programs. Reach out to us. Reach out to your local enforcement agency, your solid waste program, your city. Tell them what those problems are. The more we know, the more we can do about that. Part of it, too, is education. And I'm thrilled to see that there's so many children here. For me, my passion for environmental policies and environmental justice stemmed from growing up just down the road in Manteca, where I went to elementary school and high school there, and I was taught environmental things in my classroom. And this is going to sound a little silly, but I'm sitting here in a bow tie and polka dot socks, so silly is to be expected. The closing verses of Dr. Seuss's The Lorax are this line: unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. So as we think about planting seeds, that story ends with a seed being given to the young boy who hears the Onceler's story to take on that mantle and to grow those trees, to restore that environment. So as we plant seeds, we need to keep that in mind, that unless someone like us cares, nothing's going to get better. So we will have presenters at these workshops from local governments who have dealt with these issues. They will bring best practices to your city and your county government, and we can all learn collaboratively that everybody can have the shared responsibility of making things better, but everybody embraces the shared opportunity of making things better.
Thank you, Ken. So one of the other things you can do, I was just talking to the mayor, is phone 211, right? Just from your phone. If you see someone doing something like dumping stuff illegally, write down their license plate number and phone it in, and help will be on its way. So one of the things that I notice in every town that I go to across the state is mattresses. Do you ever notice like how many frigging mattresses are in the, like put your hand up if you've seen a mattress in the last week in the street. Okay, that's a lot, right? And we all pay a fee when we buy a mattress, and that fund creates this Mattress Recycling Council, and we're lucky enough to have Liz Wagner, who helps run the Mattress Recycling Council. So Liz, what can people do? Like, how can we get a handle on the mattress dilemma?
Thank you. Like he said, I'm Liz Wagner, and I'm with the Mattress Recycling Council. There's a lot we can do with mattresses, and we're really happy to be here to share some of the information with you. Like Jared mentioned, we do have a fee when you purchase a new mattress, and that goes to fund our program. And we have no-cost collection locations throughout the entire state. In San Joaquin, I think we have 5 or 6 of these, and 2 or 3 are within the city of Stockton. So one of the things is just taking your mattress to be responsibly dealt with. Once it reaches a no-cost collection location, it will be recycled through our program. One of the other things that we're going to be doing is working with Restore the Delta to hold a week-long collection event throughout the city of Stockton. And we're getting feedback at the booth. A lot of you have stopped by, which is great, and you can come see me afterwards on where should we target these events. Where can we have events that will have the most impact, that will get the mattresses off the streets? So a way for you to engage in that is to help come participate. We're gonna be giving prizes out to volunteers who come and pick up mattresses off the streets. And everything will be no cost. We're gonna be working with the Greater Valley Conservation Corps, which is local staff based out of Stockton, to provide jobs and staff these events, and we really wanna get the community involved. We're also gonna be doing a marketing campaign that goes along with this. So really, like we're saying, promoting the fact that you do have options, the fact that you do have no-cost collection locations, and really targeting our recycling facility in Stockton that actually pays $3 per mattress for up to 5 mattresses that you bring into that facility. And we'll be doing social media marketing and all sorts of things. So lots of exciting stuff coming up. Like I said, feel free to come by the booth and give me suggestions about where you think events would be good to target. And we're really happy to be working with everyone here.
Thank you. I just met someone who told me that they saw a mattress and they didn't have one at home, and so they just took the mattress home, and I was like, wow, I'm not sure that's what we think of when we think of mattress recycling. Unfortunately, she got really bad bed bugs. So yeah, maybe not bring the mattresses home, find Liz, and she'll help give you some cash instead. So next up, we're lucky to have Lang Tao, who is the board chair of the Stockton Unified School District. And it's really cool. It's amazing, like, when you think about how much time our kids spend in school, the school board suddenly takes on a whole new significance. Both my 2 kids went through actually my daughter's graduating from high school next week, and luckily she's going to college. But that whole process from K through 12th grade, Lang helps guide. So Lang, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then maybe tell us about how environmental education in the school can help.
Sure. Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. School boards matter. So thanks to those of you who come to our meetings, who make sure you're informed about the people you vote for, who choose to run them yourselves. I hope that many more of you will. And before I jump into what we're doing at the school district level to help advance this conversation around environmental justice and improving quality of life for our kids, I do want to give a shout out to all the students in the room. Raise your hand if you're a student, K through 12 student. Awesome. Thank you for being here. This is so important. You stepping up and learning how you can be active, and then also raise your hand if you were a student in Stockton at some point. Okay, even better. Thank you. Thank you to you all as well. So you asked what the role schools play in Stockton in terms of promoting environmental education and promoting a better future for our kids. And I'll just talk briefly about what we're doing already, and then secondly about a couple things that are coming down the pike that I think you in this room probably will be interested in if you want to advance environmental justice in our community. So like many of you, I was also born and raised in Stockton, went through Stockton schools, and while I knew that it was important to fight for environmental equity and fight for health in our communities, I don't really think I had the deep understanding that young people in our community are now gaining. I remember when I was growing up, the one environmental education day we had was a trip to Rio Vista to see where that whale came in. When what was it, in the early 1980s? The whale got stuck in Rio Vista. Humphrey, thank you, Humphrey the whale. But I think about how today in schools throughout Stockton, young people are learning about the Delta smelt through the children's books that Restore the Delta is getting into our schools, and learning not just about the Delta smelt, but about how if the Delta smelt goes away and their habitats are destroyed, that our food system and our water system will be degraded. They're learning about people like Larry Itliong and Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta through the work of Little Manila and Fathers and Families and the Mexican Heritage Center, folks who fought to ensure that the workers who are in the fields picking our produce could do their work without fear of being harmed by pesticides, and that because of their work, our entire food system was improved. And so I think that gives me a lot of hope. That gives me that inspires me, and I hope that the young people are beginning to see what Mayor Tubbs mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, that environmental justice and social justice are inextricably linked, and that for our community to grow, we need to understand how we're being effective stewards of the resources that we're being given. So in Stockton Unified, there are, you asked, like, what are we doing? What are we doing to make sure to advance this agenda? A couple things that I want to highlight that we've already done to try to make sure that our schools are not just being, not just teaching kids about environmental justice, but also being hubs of environmental justice in our communities are two things. One, you may have noticed in the past 10 years that driving around our cities, seeing our school sites, you may have noticed big solar panels going up. So at over 90% of our schools in Stockton Unified today, those schools are net energy generators. They're not actually using power provided by coal sources or other non-renewable sources. They're generating their own power and then feeding back into the grid. And another thing that I know is super exciting for me is that in partnership with organizations like Puentes, our school sites have been really excited and really open to urban re-greening initiatives. So at a number of school sites throughout our city this year, hundreds, thousands of new trees have been planted, and not just planted by adults on campuses, but planted by young people, by students who are learning how to steward trees and why it matters that tree deserts are addressed in places like South Stockton, Midtown Magnolia District, and in some of our other marginalized communities in our area. And coming up, I will say that we've heard a lot about how we have a lot more work to do. And in particular, two things that I think Stockton Unified is ready to fight for, but we need the community to push us on this, are one, addressing the water quality on all of our school campuses. We know, like when I go to schools in San Francisco and in Beverly Hills and in Boston where I went to college, like kids are excited to use their recyclable water bottles to get those fancy airport-style like water dispensers, right? We don't see those yet in Stockton schools. It's expensive to build that infrastructure. But if parents and community members and students were to demand those things, our school system would, I think, move much more quickly to do those things. And secondly, I know in partnership with Cal EPA, we're beginning to do a much deeper audit of what our air quality is like on our school campuses, and if there's anything else that we can do to make sure that our kids are being protected, so that at the very least when they're on school campuses, we know that their asthma is not being exacerbated and kids aren't coming home out of breath. So I hope that we will continue doing that.
Thank you. So next up, we have Carlos Gabriel, who is an organizer with Faith in the Valley. Faith in the Valley. So Carlos does something that I always kind of enjoy, but sometimes get a little nervous by, which is just knocking on people's doors and asking them questions like, do you trust your drinking water? And what's the answer that you get?
Thank you, Jared. As you mentioned, yeah, my name is Carlos Gabriel. I'm with Faith in the Valley. So in partnership with Cal EPA and the Division of Drinking Water and a number of community-based organizations, we set out to create and develop what I call visional friendly materials that the community can understand in accessing the services provided to keep your water safe, right? And with that, we came up with a bifold material that tells folks how to deal with your water if you have issues with odor, with taste, or with discoloration. And I did a little canvassing in downtown Stockton in a few areas. And what we found was that more than half of the folks that we asked if they trust their tap water as drinkable, they said no. 54% of the folks that I canvassed, that I asked, they said no, they don't trust their water as drinkable, their tap water is drinkable. And then we had 17% that said sometimes. And out of that, we had 29% that said yes. And what was interesting was that the folks that said yes, or sometimes what they shared verbally was that they trusted it because they had no other choice. In other words, they were going through some financial burdens, or they could not afford to buy bottled water. Let me ask the audience, how many of you trust your tap water to drink? How many of you use your tap water to drink? How many buy bottled water? What if I told you that the same source for your bottled water is your tap water, right? That the big and popular bottled water corporations and companies get their water from the same source we get our tap water. So that was some of the outcomes that I saw just a few weeks ago in doing some canvassing here in Stockton. Thank you.
Thank you, and keep knocking on doors, and hopefully when someone in the audience sees you, they'll be like, oh, I remember you, and they invite you in for a drink of water, right? Next up, we have a dynamic duo of Joaquin Esquivel. Joaquin is the chair of the State Water Resources Control Board. He's like the big honcho that helps get the water cleaner, and he's going to tell us a little bit in a second. And then we got Barbara Barragan-Padilla, Perea. And Barbara is with Restore the Delta. And but first up to Joaquin. So Joaquin, tell us a little bit about your role and how you're thinking about dealing with this drinking water crisis that we have in California, where 1 million people today lack access to drinking water that meets the standards that you have set.
Thank you, Jared. You know, I grew up actually in the Coachella Valley, Palm Springs area, and my grandfathers were migrant farm workers. And so when we talk about sort of my lens and how I come to my position as chair of the State Water Board, it comes from just, one generation removed from experiencing poor water quality, being exposed to pesticides, and otherwise having to face challenges that I fortunately have never had to actually face myself. But with an acute awareness of the context and the history under which we all find ourselves. And to Mayor Tubbs' point, it is about not myself as the chair, not what necessarily I will do, but how we as communities become empowered to be able to take advantage and take leadership in our own futures. And so. When it comes to the challenge of safe and affordable drinking water, access to it, although for most people the water coming out of their taps is clean, and there's this terrible mistrust, there are still about 1 million Californians out there that are exposed to maximum contaminants in their water that exceed maximum contaminant limits. So the question is, how are we going to address this? How are we going to be able to address what at this point is this dark mark against California, which, the 5th largest economy in the world, over 40 million people here. If we can't solve this challenge, then where else? And it's going to start with empowering communities. And so Barbara will talk a bit further about this, but there will be a hackathon actually come this fall that will take drinking water data, empower students, empower local community members to say, well, what is the quality of our drinking water? What questions sort of come out of that? And I think that what is incredibly important there, we talk about education, and we talk about how is it that we'll break these cycles of poverty and otherwise a lack of ability for communities to be able to take charge of their own futures. And it is going to come through empowering through STEM, empowering leaders locally that will go onto those water boards, will continue to become that next generation that will be leaders, particularly in the water sector. And we need your attention now more than ever. And so I'll pass it over to Barbara to talk further about that as well. Oh yeah, sorry. Here you go.
You're about to say Barbara needs no introduction, but she does need an introduction because otherwise I wouldn't have a job. So Barbara, when I read that you were doing a hackathon, I thought Joaquin was meaning like that the Russian government would be helping us with our water problems. But is it something different than that? Okay.
In fact, we chased all of those people off of our Twitter feed a long time ago. For those of you who know about the H2O Hackathon, we're so happy today because we have some of our wonderful partners here. Girls Who Code has been manning the table today. They were one of the surprise winners at last year's event. Brenna Garcia Butler from AG Spanos Company has also joined us today, and Cal Water kindly donated the tote bags because they've also been a sponsor of the event. The event is run by Restore the Delta, iHub San Joaquin, and we also partner with the San Joaquin County Office of Education. This will be our 5th year. We're really excited about what has happened out of this partnership this year. A couple great staff members from the State Water Resources Control Board Water Data Dive Program served as judges this year, and they got so excited that they really wanted to participate in a more meaningful way next year. And we are very grateful to you and to Cal EPA. We're going to have their assistance in formulating our next hack for the next 12 months. And we're going to have water board staff working with kids in San Joaquin County and Stockton for a couple months, teaching them how to use data to track algal blooms in waterways as a preventative measure to prepare us in the Delta for when we receive that next drought. We need to be able to isolate them, identify them, track them, and make sure that they don't become toxic. It protects drinking water for the future. We're looking at a 38% reduction in runoff into the Delta watersheds with climate change over the next 50 years. And you can't have still stagnant water. You end up with algal blooms, and we want to protect water for drinking water, for irrigation, for farming, for recreation, for fisheries, and all its beneficial uses. And I'm so excited because this is a preventative measure. We're actually going to get ahead of something. And the last thing, because I don't want to use up too much time, the hackathon is such a labor of love for us because it's an intersection. It's an intersection of solving an environmental problem. It's an intersection of creating opportunity through education. And it's an intersection of developing a new economy for Stockton and for an economy, a city that needs redevelopment economically. I really believe in my heart of hearts that water tech is the future, that the Delta and Stockton should be the capital of water tech. And I'm just looking forward to seeing this event really kind of bloom, not the algal bloom, and take off this next year.
So give it one more shout out. When is the date of the hackathon?
We have not finalized our date, but if you keep track of the H2O Hackathon website, it'll be either next March or April 2020.
Cool. You should maybe print some hacky sacks for the hackathon, maybe. Well, yeah, we're on it. Okay, that's good. Okay, next up we have air quality, and Veronica Eady runs the programs at the California Air Resources Board, and they're like the environmental police on the beat, and they regulate everything from tailpipe emissions of trucks and buses and tractors all the way through what's happening in factories, and they're actually leading, when VW was caught cheating and they were polluting with their diesel cars, these were the guys that held them accountable. So let's give a big shout out to Veronica. And Veronica, tell us what are the kind of things that you're thinking about and how are you helping Stockton?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the mayor for having us here and everybody in the audience for giving up your Monday evening to be here and listen to us talk. So thank you. And we're here really to help solve the issues that you find in your communities every day. There have been some really powerful words up here, and there has been sort of a theme, and I'm going to take it a little bit farther, and that is, I'm going to call it the democratization of data. You've heard Barbara and Joaquin and others talk about community residents owning data. Imagine the power that you have if you know what is in the air that you're breathing, and you go to your elected officials and you say, no, this isn't good enough. And that's really what we're trying to do, not just at the Air Resources Board, but in many of the agencies at Cal EPA. And I have to say that in his short tenure thus far, Secretary Blumenfeld is leading the way. This is the charge, and we're all marching in concert. So what can we do? What can the Air Resources Board do in Stockton? I'm going to touch briefly on a really exciting bill that I'm helping to implement, and you may have heard of it. It's AB 617. And AB 617 is a bill that requires a number of things, and the most important part of it is that it requires that your regulatory agencies like us at the Air Resources Board and at your local air pollution control district, that we partner with community residents, that we help community residents to access that data, and not only access the data, but then to put together plans that we can work on together to help ratchet down the noxious air pollutants in your community. So in the implementation of AB 617 in the first year, which was in September when our board voted on it, we designated 10 communities throughout the state where we were first going to focus. And of those 10 communities, 2 of them are here in San Joaquin Valley, but we have yet to designate one in northern San Joaquin, like in Stockton. But right now we're working in Fresno and we're working in Shafter. And we have a community steering committee that's dominated by community residents who come together every month to roll up their sleeves and to look at the data, to collect data, to tell us where to collect data, and then put together a plan that we're going to work on together. Some of the work that I do is, well, I work throughout the state. Some of the work that I do is in the border region, and we're grappling with how do you solve the impacts that we're experiencing here in California that are coming from an area where we don't have jurisdiction in the country of Mexico. And while you're not near the border here, I think it's a really important story, and I think that it's something that we need to apply in other parts of the state, including here in Stockton. So, you have the California Air Resources Board, you have our counterparts in Mexico that we're working with, you have researchers that we're working with. We've been working for decades, government to government, trying to solve problems on the US-Mexico border, environmental problems. And as far as I'm concerned, the reason that we have not solved the problems on the US-Mexico border dealing with pollution, whether it's air, water, any of the myriad of pathways of pollution. The reason that we haven't seen success is that we're working government to government. We're not working with the residents. We're not working with community groups enough here in California, and we're not working at all with community groups in Mexico. So Mexico will continue to be a problem until we build the right partnerships. Partnerships that will go well beyond any political administration, and you are the key. So what we want to do in Stockton is what we would do anywhere else. Partner with you and figure out the solutions with you and arm you with the data. That's what AB 617 does. Now, we haven't selected Stockton yet. Stockton hasn't been nominated as a community yet, but I have really great hope that in working with our air district, in working with the local community-based organizations and the faith community and the social justice community, we're going to have a really strong case to make for Stockton. So come next year or come the year after, Stockton is going to be on that list, and we are going to have a focused effort to clean up the air in Stockton. Yes, so give yourselves a hand, because we have our work cut out for us. And I just want to say one more thing while I'm up here. Another piece of that equation is also getting funding into the hands of community-based organizations who can begin to take the lead as we build capacity. So I'll just give a plug for the legislature has given us $15 million that we can grant out to community-based organizations to help us, to advise us on this program. We're going to have another $5 million that we're going to be sending out this summer. We'll send out a solicitation. So all of you stay tuned, and we will make sure that everybody in the room knows when that solicitation goes out, because a priority for me, a personal priority, is to see money going into Stockton to build up community-based organizations, to build capacity of the residents here.
Thank you, Veronica. It reminds me a little bit of a story when my son was like in the second grade for Earth Day week. So April 22nd, just last week, was Earth Day, and he had a speaker come and say to him, you know what, kids, it's now up to you. And I'm really proud of my son because he put up his hand and was like, no, it's still up to you. You're the adults. Like, we're just kids. Don't be putting all that on us. So while it is, you know, we do want to empower you, we also want to do our job. And our job is making sure that the laws get enforced and that companies are doing the right thing and that it does not pay to pollute. So we are here to do our job. And sometimes it's tough and sometimes it's messy, but we're going to continue doing it day after day. And that's a job you don't need to have to do. So while there's a lot on you, it's not all on you. I wanted to introduce two people who aren't on the stage but play a really important role in the work we do. Teresa Marks, stand up, Teresa. Teresa runs our Department of Pesticide Regulation. We have a lot of pesticides used in California, and Teresa's working to make sure that communities are safe. Talking of someone else who is working to make sure our communities are safe, Meredith Williams, who runs our Department of Toxic Substance Control. So all the nasty toxic crap in our communities that we want cleaned up, Meredith helps to do that. She should be on the stage because we had lots of tough questions for her, but somehow she pulled the short straw and is with you in the audience. No, thank you both for coming. They came from Sacramento tonight because even though they weren't speaking, they wanted to be with you and work out how they too could help. So huge thank you to them. Daniel Standart is a nurse practitioner with the Community Medical Center, and you get to see all of us in some way, shape, or form a little bit on the sidelines, but you get to see day in, day out the impacts that pollution, and particularly air pollution, causes. Maybe you can just give us a little snapshot of what you see and how we can work to help you see less kids and others in the emergency room.
Sure. Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I thank the mayor also for putting this event on. I think it's highly important. I work for community medical centers, and I became a nurse as a second career. And what really drove me was seeing my grandmother, who was in a nursing home, and seeing the nurses that came and cared for her. And working for a place like Community Medical Centers, which is a federally qualified health center, we really reach out to the underserved in our community. And I remember when our CEO, Christine, sent an opportunity out and said, would you want to be a part of this Stockton Initiative? And when I saw the words asthma task force, I jumped at the chance because I've had asthma since I was 4 years old. And now as a registered nurse, I see the impact that pollution has. And I knew of it in the 70s, just visualize me as a 4-year-old or 5-year-old, and my mom's taking me out to the park, and she has a cigarette in one hand, and it's the hottest day of the year, and pollen's everywhere, and we're next to a freeway. So a lot of education needs to go on, and that's what we're trying to do here, forging partnerships. So what I see in the clinic is I see, like I said, the underserved in the community, where we have field workers who come in and they have small children. And I'll never forget, I had an instant, a situation a couple of weeks ago, and it was a young mother, and she came into the clinic and she said she needed to get to the hospital. So we were going to transport her to San Joaquin General Hospital. Well, she didn't want to go by ambulance because that costs money. So we're located downtown on Channel Street, and so we're trying to pull together resources. And she said her sister could come and watch her kids. And in my mind, my judgment was, well, if your sister can come and watch your kids, you know, it's only a 15-minute drive to San Joaquin General Hospital. Well, what she meant was her sister had to walk like 5-6 miles to get to the clinic to pick up the kids and watch them, so the mother can get to the hospital and take care of herself. So there's real needs out there, and the partnerships that are forged are like El Concilio. I don't know where you are out there, but God bless you, because you're coming up and we got the flyers about the transportation. So it's community outreach like that really makes a difference. And then we went on a bus tour with California EPA and Faith in the Valley, and a lot of people were there. And, you know, I see the front line stuff when they come into the clinic, but I'm almost ashamed to say, I live in Stockton, but going out into the community on that bus tour, we went to parks that were right across from factories. We went to El Concilio's Head Start program, which is right directly under a freeway, and their playground, you can hear the cars going over their head. And I'm thinking, why was this planned this way? So for me, it's what can we do? And one of the members of Faith in the Valley said it so great when she has, I think she has 3 kids, and she shared at one of our meetings that when she was a young mother, one of her kids was having severe asthma, and she didn't have the transportation, she didn't have the resources to get to where she needed to go, like a community medical centers. And an RN took the time to go out to the house and reach out in the community and provide the things that she needed in the education, because there's education that is so valuable, the triggers of asthma. So that's what I'm excited about, actually getting out there and the outreach aspect of it. And then that leads me into one of the things that came out of this committee is the California Department of Public Health is offering a asthma management academy, and they're doing this for free. And what it is they train it's non-licensed community health workers, patient advocates, health educators, and in community medical centers, we have 19 clinics. We have like 7, 8 clinics in Stockton alone, and we go out to Vacaville, Esparta, Tracy. And what they do is they go through 2 sessions, and the 2 aspects of that training is best practices for home visits and how to conduct an in-home trigger assessment. So I just see that as just another way, because I'm in the clinic, I'm stuck there 8 hours a day, which I love it, but our community outreach workers, through this initiative up here, we forge a relationship with an army of health educators that are going to go out in the community and help those suffering with asthma. And I think that's fantastic.
Thank you, Daniel. Another quick shout out. We have some friends from the United States Environmental Protection Agency that these folks come in, day out. No, they're the staff that are doing the job that the Trump administration probably wishes they weren't doing, but they got their approval, they came out here, so a big round of applause to Chuck and Angela, because, they're doing their job against all the odds, so thank you for coming out. Elaine Beirut with Little Manila Rising is, wow, you got a fan club, that's good. You got some fans in the audience. Elaine, maybe tell us a little bit about the youth education and workshops that you're doing around asthma and why that excites you.
Hi, yes. Again, my name is Elaine Beirut, and I am the, no, it's okay. And I'm the program manager for Little Manila Rising. So I want to tell you what happened last year. So our co-founder passed away from asthma-related incidences while she was on vacation in Hawaii. And she grew up here in Stockton. She was part of the Filipino community advocating about the histories of the Filipino immigrant story. And so the work that we do now is very close to our hearts, and making sure that folks are not impacted by air pollution, by any of the environmental justice incidences that happen within our community. And so what's going to be happening in about 2 months on June 29th, so mark your calendars. We, as in the subgroup committee that's been working around air pollution and asthma-related incidences, will be hosting a workshop for youth and their families. So we want to bring young people invested into their community issues and really be able to learn more about air pollution, its relationship to asthma, healthy home practices, and ways to get involved civically to promote clean air. We've been working with several community organizations and partnered with local, state, and federal government agencies to make sure that we're able to educate our community about those impacts. And so you can sign up. I believe there's a table here with that sign-up list. and flyers that help promote it. You'll also see a lot of the social media marketing around that, getting our youth involved and actually being the ones who are the channel for that workshop. And it'll also be located at Langston Hughes Academy, and you'll receive a lot more information for that event on June 29th.
Nice. Let's give a huge round of applause to all our panel. Woo! Let's give it up for the mayor who stayed the entire time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and your team. Let's give it up for Yana, and come on up, Kevin Olp. Without Kevin, none of this would have happened, and his team. Deldy, everyone who helped, thank you so much. Two final things, or three. One is, so we did over 200 inspections in the community, and we'll be giving you the results and letting you know what happened with that. Secondly, there's a great video that talks about kind of the history of redlining and all the issues that have happened in Stockton, so be sure to look at that. And then finally, there's amazing products and booths and information all around here. So stay, get engaged, and keep up the fight. Thank you.